Two guests are here to help us go through it. That's Bracken Hendricks. He was an Obama campaign advisor who helped write some of the clean energy portions of the 2009 stimulus plan. He's now a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. And Erik Milito is a director at the American Petroleum Institute, which lobbies for the oil and gas industry in Washington. Erik, I want to start off with you because we do have a sense of what the president's going to say, not only because a lot of the ideas are familiar, but specifically one thing he says about the industry I want to check in with you on. He's going to say that 57% of all leased onshore acres, 70% of offshore leases are inactive, basically saying the oil industry can drill at home, but they're choosing not to. Why?
Well, that actually is a preposterous argument. It's recycled. It's a tired old argument that keeps coming up, and it fails to recognize a simple understanding of the oil and gas industry. First of all, the report is wrong in several aspects. One is that it counts as inactive a strong number of leases that are actually under expiration, which by their very definition should be an active lease. And it also refers to 70% of resources being held up, when in fact these are leases, which many of which, and a lot of times most of which, do not even have oil and natural gas. And the fundamental point is this is a political distraction that is meant to really distract the public from the real issues of generating new jobs through the oil and gas industry, as well as high prices and the ability to use our own supplies to put downward pressure on those prices.
Bracken, you work for this administration. I mean, why would it be as misleading as Erik is trying to say here?
Well, I don't think it is at all misleading. I think the president's strategy that he's announcing today is a very broad-based and comprehensive strategy. He's trying to speed more leases to market. That's a useful and productive thing to bring more domestic energy online. But there's a fundamental structural problem with the economics of oil and our oil dependence. Oil will always be a global market. The price will be set by OPEC countries who have 70% of reserves. We only have 2% of reserves, and we use 25% of global energy every year. There is no way that we can reduce our vulnerability to price shocks, to disruptions in unstable and undemocratic countries, as long as we are relying on oil as the fundamental lifeblood of our economy. So what the president is laying out is something that makes efforts to increase domestic production, but very importantly, also moves to diversify our energy and to reduce our consumption through energy efficiency, more efficient cars, changing our fleet to get electric vehicles,
right,
and bringing natural gas and biofuels online. So it's a broad-based strategy, and that's really the core of the president's insight on this issue.
But Erik, with the issuance of new leases or the encouragement to drill at home, that's got to be something that the industry likes in some way.
Yeah, we do support that, but we haven't seen any policy decisions which demonstrate that's where they were going. In fact, they are referring to these new proposals as incentives.
Right.
And what we've seen so far would be disincentives to investment here in the United States.
What would be an incentive here in the United States to drill more?
Well, all we want is an administration that's going to move forward with oil and gas production on federal lands: the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Eastern Gulf, land in the Rockies, and Alaska. The industry has spent over $4 billion in offshore leases in Alaska, covering over 3 million acres. But the only thing holding that up is the government's refusal to provide the permits and plans necessary to move forward with those leases. These are resources that will create over 500,000 jobs if we have the opportunity to go out there and access them.
We've heard a lot of these talking points before, but I'm trying to move it forward here, Erik, and say what would make the industry do something. Is it different royalty rates? Is it a tax incentive, drill now instead of drilling later? What would get the industry to do more right now?
We're not asking for incentives. We just need the administration to move forward and process the permits on a steady path forward. There's a lot of plans. They've already mentioned that we are not moving forward because we don't have the expiration plans in place. So we have idle leases because they don't have expiration plans. Well, this administration is sitting on over 100 plans that haven't been acted on. So we want the administration to approve plans, approve permits, and move forward with offshore leasing, which is not happening. They've taken these lands off the table.
That's just not true. If I can jump in, domestic production is up 3% over last year. It's up about 10% in the last few years. We're almost at a 10-year high in terms of our domestic oil production. We are seeing that coming out of the Deepwater Horizon, one of the worst oil spills in American history. The administration did the responsible thing. They looked at the structure of offshore drilling, the regulation. Mm-hmm. There's been a very systematic review, and they've already brought 40 shallow water leases online, 7 deep water leases online, and actually the president of Chevron's exploration unit said that it's not some sort of a black hole that's slowing things down. It's that the government is working together with industry in this new environment when we have to be a bit more careful, but we also want to bring those resources online. There's been a period where we've been figuring out how to move those leases forward. I think what you're hearing from the president today is a very good faith effort to bring more domestic resources online, but also to take seriously that we have to get off oil.
Erik, when we heard that the president was speaking today, I went back and I looked at the speech he gave just about a year ago to talk about then his new energy initiative. That obviously was paused because of the Gulf of Mexico disaster and the ensuing energy crisis. We've now got oil back above $100 a barrel, so we've got the immediacy there. But talk to me about what has actually changed in that year. Have we seen more energy companies begin drilling on the east coast of the United States?
Well, no. I mean, we're not seeing additional leases being provided at all. In fact, the decision was made to limit ourselves to the central and western Gulf. And it's interesting that the president has taken credit for increases in production, which have occurred. But production today is because of decisions made in previous administrations, by the Clinton administration and by the Bush administration, where they made progressive decisions to lease new areas, particularly in the deep water. And President Clinton himself has said these leasing delays and permitting delays are ridiculous. So we just aren't getting the progress we need to make in terms of moving forward with permits and moving forward with new leasing.
Bracken, Erik's making this sound like it's an administrative issue.
Well, I want to just actually push back and move to the real issue on the table, which is the issue of jobs and competitiveness and how we're going to stand up industries that are going to help the economy succeed over the long term.
Do you dispute that, though, specifically his point that it's not a matter of cost or willingness, it's just a matter of paperwork?
They sort of want to have it. They sort of want to have it both ways, because they're saying we've got a short-term price impact, so we need to immediately start drilling. But then when we actually have increases, they're saying actually bringing new resources online actually takes about 7 years. It has a very minimal impact on the price of gas. So as a consumer protection measure, bringing new domestic leases online has very, very limited impact and zero impact in the near term. So right now
we're neglecting the long term.
No, I don't think we are. I think that what the president is looking to is a serious long-term strategy to diversify our energy resources. Right now, consumers have no choice. If I want to get in my car and take my kids to school or go to the grocery store, I got to burn gasoline.